Hi, welcome to Politics is Personal with Leslie and Cole. I'm Leslie Herod.
And I'm Cole Wist. We look forward to a fun conversation with you today. We're probably going to hit a little Voting Rights Act with our good friends Terrance, Carroll. Fitness Day at the White House. That was a really interesting afternoon. Met Gala, I'll be out of my comfort zone talking to you about Met Gala. And God only knows what might come up in the conversation, but it's always great to be with you.
It's going to be a good show.
All right, we're going
Leslie, what's in your feed this week?
Well, Cole, you know that I am a lover of all things in the art world, whether it's fashion or fine arts. I'm on the board for the Museum of Contemporary Arts right here in Denver, or even movies and television. And so I gotta say, things have been a buzz recently in the art world. And got a center on the Met Gala. It was an interesting night. The Met Gala, of course, is where people come together and spend about at least $100,000 per ticket in the fashion world to support the museum, the art museum. And so it just got me thinking, though, as I saw all these costumes and all these people coming out, like, you know, in their different costumes and their interpretation of art, like what kind of art has moved you or has shaped who you are today? I personally remember growing up and just seeing the jazz scene. And I feel like this black dance jazz scene has been almost hanging up in every black house. And it really made me think of freedom. It made me think of what it could mean to just move how you will. It was even reinterpreted by in centers as well. And it really did move me. And so I want to know what kind of art has moved you recently or in your life.
I'm from Paonia,
Yeah.
and Paonia's become quite the artist community, and I always love going and seeing new artists when I get home. But one thing I will tell you, and this kind of comes from a trip that my wife and I took a couple of years ago. We went to Amsterdam, we went to the Van Gogh Museum, which was kind of a life-changing experience for me, honestly.
It's amazing, yeah.
Got introduced to Banksy, and so there's a brand new Banksy sculpture this week that I noticed. But,
do you think it's going to implode when someone buys it?
Who knows? Who knows? But I love what art does in terms of encouraging us to start conversations, and good artists, I think, are ones that get those conversations started. So.
Yeah. I've always said that I believe that there's been no successful political movement in the history of this country or the world where artists weren't involved. You know, even if you take the great art of oratory and think of Dr. King and others, it's just art has always been central to movements, and we need that. And so I do find it interesting, and this has also been in my feed. There's been a discourse from the left about should people even have attended the Met Gala and how offensive it is in this day and age
because of Bezos?
To go because of Bezos and the cost of the ticket. What are your thoughts?
Well, I find a lot of things about Bezos to be pretty uncomfortable. I'm probably the wrong person to say whether somebody should go to the Met Gala. It's it wouldn't be something that I would be invited to probably. But look, I think we can politicize everything. And to a certain extent, when I start to hear things like, oh, we shouldn't patronize this because so-and-so is involved with that, I think that really does allow us to sort of get into our camps, to get into our silos, and to not interact. So frankly, I sort of push back a little bit on those that say we shouldn't participate in something because person X is involved.
Yeah, I think that when it comes to art, right? Art is inherently political, period. And artists who don't think their work is political are probably in the wrong genre. Art is political. And so hearing the discourse and having people out there protesting because of Bezos or because of the cost of the ticket is fine. Like, it is art.
Of course.
Now, to be clear, if I got invited, I would be going, right?
What would you wear? What would you wear?
It depends on the theme.
I want to know.
It depends on the theme, but it would be a spectacle, of course.
Edgy?
Yeah, probably edgy. But I love that, and I think that quite frankly, like supporting the arts right now in a time when people are trying to tear down art institutions. You know, people should, if they have the money to spend to support the arts, they should. So,
I mean,
that's how I think about it.
There are a lot of folks on the right who get really frustrated when artists, and I'm primarily thinking about musicians, when they decide to express their political views in some way. I've never had a problem with it. I've never had a problem with athletes expressing their political views. They have the ability, I think, to shape discourse. They have a unique platform. They can reach people. So I say more power to artists in terms of engaging. God bless you, Bruce Springsteen. I love how the boss has really found his voice, but we need more of that, frankly, because that gets people to talk. It gets people to get out of their shell, which is, you know, one of the reasons why we're doing this is to try to get people to talk.
Exactly. So what's in your feed?
That ridiculous fitness day. So we had the president sitting there behind the Resolute desk with a bunch of kids. Did you see this video?
I did.
It looked like a hostage video. And I've gone back and watched that video several times, and just, if you haven't done this, watch each person. I mean,
oh man,
even Bobby Kennedy looked a little bored back there. Some of the kids are rolling their eyes.
He was talking gibberish.
Oh, well, of course he was. I mean, he's literally talking about foreign policy. I think at one point he talks about shooting somebody in the head with little kids there.
Wow.
You know, and then from there we go out to the White House lawn where President Trump is teaching people how to do
they said it on Fox News. They called it like the famous Trump dance, which I didn't know existed. I don't know how to call it a dance, and I definitely wouldn't call it anything near fit. Okay, literally. I'm so glad that wasn't in my feed until you tainted my feed with that image, because it was pretty sad, and I think it was interesting. Just the timing of it all, right? I mean, the timing of it all. And then the rollout, of course, of the policies that they were allegedly rolling out that would lead people back into more fitness, which was, you know, Kennedy's agenda to get people off of certain prescription drugs. And, you know, whether or not you agree with that or not, I think that whole spectacle was really interesting and probably further from the debate about how to get America fit, like Michelle Obama did, than we need to be.
Speaking of Make America Healthy Again, something popped up this morning that I found to be a surprise. On the one hand, we're talking about how we're going to make our country healthy again, and then we're going to have the Trump administration getting behind flavored vapes.
Yeah, it was so random.
What in the world's going on there?
It's called money.
Right.
It's called that, you know, was it Philip Morris is definitely a part of that conversation, had been a part of the conversation in Denver and also in Colorado at the state level. And so we know what that means. It's a check.
You know, and I'm all for liberty. You know, you do you. You know, whatever floats your boat. But when we talk about things like vaping that I think have really caused real damage to kids in this country, I think it's entirely irresponsible for the administration to be going in that direction.
Well, let's zoom in a little bit hyper-local then. Right here in Denver, we just got news that the president is suing Denver for the assault weapons ban. In Denver, you cannot walk around with an assault weapon, and you can't sell one either. And then also for, another, I think, gun measure came out right before we started the show.
Earlier today, the Justice Department announced that they're suing the state of Colorado over the magazine limit bill that passed, I think, back in 2013. So this has been on the books for a long time. You and I probably have been on the opposite side of that issue, and I cast votes in the legislature to repeal the magazine limit. But I think, you know, we're going to now sort of, I think, be in this state-federal friction on guns, on voting rights, on a number of issues, reproductive rights. So this constant state-federal friction, I think, is a real byproduct of where the Supreme Court has placed us. And frankly, it's caused by the fact that our Congress does not lead. They don't pass things, so state legislatures have to act, and that's why, unfortunately, we are very schizophrenic as a country right now when it comes to a lot of really important issues.
Absolutely. And we know Denver is such a target right now for the Trump administration. Colorado is a target. So we're probably going to see more of these rulings based on things that have come out of the state legislature or the local Denver community and city council. And so we'll have to come back to that, because I think there's a lot to talk about, especially when it comes to guns and reproductive justice.
So there is one, before we leave that topic, the mayor came out in a very forceful way about what the Trump administration is planning to do with respect to Denver's policy on assault weapons, right?
Yeah.
So you did run for that post.
Yeah.
Give us a review of how you think the mayor did. What would Mayor Leslie Herod have done in that circumstance? Did he take the right tone? Should
I
be
think
more
he did take
forceful?
the right tone.
Okay.
I think he did take the right tone. We just had a shooting again in the ballroom that we talked about in our last episode, and so we should be forceful. I think the tone wasn't too forceful, honestly, and I think that he should be standing up and speaking out against these issues. And I hope to have him on the show so that we can talk about it with him.
And before we go on what's in your feed, if I hear any more about that stupid freaking ballroom, which is now at $1 billion, and so I think we're unfortunately going to be stuck talking about the ballroom for a while. So, but not today.
Not today.
So stay with us. Our good friend Terrance Carroll will be up with us next.
All right. Well, hello, Mr. Terrance Carroll. It's good to see you on the show. Politics is Personal. My dear old friend, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, Leslie. Thank you,
Hey,
Cole.
Terrance. Good to see you.
Are you excited to be here?
You know, I've been like dancing in my house all day with anticipation of being here.
Well, I wouldn't blame you because it has been, 10, 15 years since we've known each other, and I was an intern in the Capitol when you were becoming the Speaker of the House.
I think it's been longer than that.
Yeah. Well, we're going to not age ourselves too
How
much.
was she as an intern?
She wasn't my intern.
Oh, okay.
She worked in the governor's office,
Oh, okay.
I
I
think.
worked for Rosemary and then the governor.
Oh, yeah.
I can't remember where.
She was never my intern, so I can't be held responsible for anything related to Leslie.
Actually, was I legislative counsel when you were the Speaker and I was staffing Senate State Affairs with Joan Fitzgerald? Would that have been the right time?
No.
That was later.
That was before me. Well,
Okay.
I was in the House then, but I wasn't Speaker yet.
Okay, because I do remember. So did you know I was legislative counsel?
I did not know that.
So that's the nonpartisan research staff for the General Assembly. We're all legislators.
You were
here, so
nonpartisan?
we've all-
When have you ever been
Well,
nonpartisan?
listen, I was very nonpartisan,
Oh, okay.
and I just remember we
It
had
was interesting to see.
four
I'll
other
bet it
black
was,
people in the
yeah.
building. It was you. It was
Rosemary Marshall,
and Peter Groff,
Ah.
and then there was Khadijah
and Makisha.
Makisha, and those were the only black people in the building.
And
I was
Victoria Scott Haynes.
Oh, yeah.
When I was Speaker.
and I was the only black staffer that was meant to be nonpartisan. But black people sit at the lunchroom table together, and so we would have lunch, and they would come say, who are you? Like, let's hang out. And I got in trouble for it. Actually, they were like, you cannot fraternize with the partisan staff, and I was like, it's not because they're partisan, it's because they're black. If there was any black Republicans, I'd say hi to them too. Actually, that Ed guy was there for a little while, but and that was really one of the turning points for me not being nonpartisan. I was like, I really can't do this, but it was a great opportunity to be there. And so I do remember watching you become Speaker of the House. And we did Lift Every Voice and Sing, and at the same time, Peter Groff became the President of the Senate.
Correct.
And I believe the same year Barack Obama
That is
became
true.
president.
All of us together.
So tell me how that happened and how'd that feel?
It was interesting. I didn't expect it because at the time, everyone thought that Bernie Busher was going to become Speaker of the House, and he lost his re-election in Grand Junction.
Dang.
Yeah, it was a big surprise for everybody. He lost to someone named Laura Bradford. I don't know why I still remember her name. Lost to Laura Bradford. Next thing you know, I'm the Speaker of the House. It was a highly contested race to become Speaker of the House, with names that I shall not name. But it was a highly contested race, and I was shocked. I was completely shocked. One, because I never thought I would be Speaker of the House. I was in line to become Majority Leader because I was already Assistant Majority Leader. So I counted votes and did all this stuff to become Majority Leader. I had spent most of my summer raising money for other people. So I would,
As a good Democrat does.
as a good Democrat does. So I was, doing my thing. And then I became Speaker of the House. I remember the day because after it was announced that I had enough votes to be Speaker of the House, I wanted to call my mother. But my mother had passed away in 2002, and this was 2008. But I still remembered my mother's telephone number at the time. And so I wanted to call her and say, Mom, the white folks messed up. They made me Speaker of the House.
Yeah.
The only piece of chocolate in the entire milk,
Yeah.
you know, and boom, here
So
I am.
what was the makeup of the legislature at that time, Republicans and Democrats? Do you remember what the numbers
It
were?
was something like 35 to 30.
So that's pretty
close.
comparable to my first year, which was 34-31. So most committees were a difference of one. People had to get along. People had to work together, or at least that was the if you wanted to be effective. Do you think we've lost some of that now? With obviously the Democrats are doing very well. They have nearly a supermajority in the legislature. Clearly it's a different environment, and Democrats can pass pretty much whatever they want, and the only stopgap is Jared Polis. But you know, walk us through kind of how you think things have changed and whether it's a good thing.
It looks very familiar to me, actually, because when I was first elected, the Republicans had the majority in the state house, and it was a pretty significant majority. It was
Who was
like
the speaker then?
Lola Spradley.
That's right. Okay.
And
okay.
so the Republicans had a majority of, 39, 40 folks. I think there were only 28 of us, so whatever that math is, maybe 27. And so we were an afterthought for most things because we weren't really needed to do anything.
I know how that felt.
We now have Democrats who don't know the feeling of
Right.
being an afterthought. And it's not good to be an afterthought. It's not good to treat people as an afterthought. And I believe that part of what's happened is that anytime folks get power, there's this tendency. I'm not going to assign a value state judgment to it, but there's a tendency when you have power to forget that power is fleeting and to forget that you also have to treat people with a degree of respect and with a degree of humanity, because you're kind of all in this together.
Right.
And we don't take an allegiance to a party when we get sworn in. We take an allegiance to uphold the Constitution of the state of Colorado and the United States, which is implied that we're going to seek out the common good. But the problem is that the way the system is set up, our democracy is set up, it encourages people to retreat to their ideological corners and see the world from a predetermined position of what my ideology is, as opposed to seeing the world as it is and trying to formulate policy positions based on how the world is. I mean, George Washington, for as flawed as he was, as all the founders were, he had said some things that were pretty applicable to now. He said, yeah, dudes, don't. This is my version of George Washington.
The cool George Washington.
I'll just do George Washington if he was in 5 points. Like homies. Try to avoid separating yourself into parties, because once you do that, you're no longer working for the common good, but you're working for getting an advantage for your particular political party. And I think that's part of the problem that we have now. And folks just don't, from what I can tell, and from what people told me, folks don't necessarily engage with each other as much outside the four walls of the General Assembly. When I was chairman of the House Judiciary Committee, I did that for 4 years. Every week, my entire committee went bowling at Lucky Strike, Republicans and Democrats. We bowled and we had beer together every week for 4 years that I was chairman of the committee. And that took the sting out of very contentious debates. We still got intense. We still had our arguments, but the arguments never got personal. It was always about the policy, because we bowled together, we drank beer together, and I don't know if that happens right now.
And politics, I think, works better. I mean, that's our idea for having these conversations with folks, and that is when we start seeing each other as human beings, when we start seeing the person and stop seeing the partisan aspect of what that person might be working on or what they may stand for. I think we're going to get better government. we're also going to get a better result, and we're going to model good behavior for the citizens of our state.
Yeah, and I actually think you bring up a really good point about people don't hang out across party lines anymore as much as they used to. And me being a staffer coming in and kind of a younger person and then deciding to run for office, a lot because I saw you stand there and open the General Assembly with Lift Every Voice and Sing. But it's also the interesting unintended consequences of the quote unquote ethics and government bills, right? Because there was a time when, which limited spending, like how much you could gift someone, if you could buy them dinner and all of that. Because there was a time when, you would be invited out to these dinners together across the aisle. You'd be going on these trips together and I believe there should be bounds around them, but that had stopped for quite some time, especially in a bipartisan or nonpartisan way. And so people didn't get to know each other in the same ways that maybe we intentionally did. And so different from when you were a speaker to now. I mean, we see even now in the Colorado Democratic caucus, there's issues with spending in the caucus accounts and things like that when we're trying to get together. And so I do think we need to encourage these partisan conversations. I also think that it's very different being a Democratic elected official, being a Democrat and being an elected official, and then not being elected anymore and being a Democrat. And you have chosen in your retirement, if you will,
way too young to be retired,
to go independent, right? I mean, and I find that really interesting. Talk about that.
Well, I'm still a registered Democrat.
Okay.
But I don't really attend party functions. I don't do the caucuses. I don't do assemblies. I'm going to make a final decision on whether I go officially unaffiliated after the November elections, because maybe I would have made the decision already if I was a private individual, and I still think of myself that way. But I also know that as a former Speaker of the House, if I do something like that, everybody and their mom was going to notice that I did it. But I will tell you why I'm thinking about it. Is, I'm an ordained Baptist preacher, and I'm very much rooted in the prophetic tradition of the Black church, which is not affiliated with one party or another. It's really about affirming the human dignity of Black folks and this belief that Jesus sides with the marginalized and disinherited, which is where the tradition of the Black church comes from, out of the hush harbors, where we had to go and worship in private, because enslavers said, if you're going to have church service, you need to have a white preacher do your church service, because we don't want you to get this idea that you could be free. That you can be free. And that's literally was the history behind it. So the Black church, its tradition, it's really based on this idea that we have to call out anything that stands in opposition to the inherent worth and dignity of other image bearers. This idea, and from Genesis 1, that not even an idea, God saying directly, all y'all are created in God's image. Act like it. And not many of us act like it anymore.
Well, and I would just to throw in, though, I would say it's clearly there's one party that forgot that was the roots of their party, and another party that maybe could be stronger at and fighting for the people, but who does still align with those values. And what I will say, what I think is interesting, the Black church has been central in the Black vote and in Black communities for forever, right? I mean, like for Black American history, right? At least that's what I can speak to. And Black preachers also have led the movement, right? Or Black religious leaders in some way. I mean, I could even go say Malcolm X, was a religious leader.
I would put him in that category.
Exactly. And of course, Dr. King. And so now just these past few days, we have seen the Republican Party, the Supreme Court, I think led by what folks might call activist judges on the right, strike down the Voting Rights Act, which was, again, something that was really led and continued to be championed by the Black church. Talk about that.
Well, what we had last week with Louisiana versus Calais, the Supreme Court, a 6-3 decision, and I'll let you figure out who the 6 were and who the 3 were. I mean, it's pretty obvious. Effectively said that states are no longer required. In fact, it's unconstitutional for redistricting bodies, whether it's an independent redistricting commission or the state legislature, to draw districts in a manner that would create what technically are called opportunity districts or majority minority districts. The news has portrayed it as it struck down racial gerrymandering. Racial gerrymandering is actually a different thing altogether, where you try to pack a district or you try to crack a district in a way that you minimize the electoral power of black and brown people or Asians, whoever that group may be in that particular area. What happens with majority minority districts or opportunity districts is this idea that this group of people, black people, let's say black people in the South, have been excluded and denied the opportunity to elect a candidate of their choice. Doesn't mean that candidate's necessarily going to be a black person that they elect, but the opportunity to elect a candidate of their choice. So the court said, yeah, we live in a colorblind society. We don't need to do this anymore. So you can't draw congressional boundaries. And by extension, you can probably look at state boundaries and things like that as well. You can't draw congressional boundaries in a manner that would create majority minority districts.
And as I understand the decision, and skim read it, enough to want to be able to have an intelligent conversation with you about this, Terrance. But as I understand what the court said, so long as the legislatures use partisan reasons or political reasons, that we're going to sanction that. So looking at what happened in Tennessee today, where we're now going to have an all Republican congressional delegation where they've taken the city of Memphis, which is a majority black city, with a black representative in Congress, and dividing that up amongst all of the various districts. So I'm sure you're familiar with what happened in Tennessee today. Kind of walk us through what you think the analysis is going to be there, because it's almost certainly going to end up in litigation.
Yep. Tennessee did two things today. One, they changed their own state law.
Yeah.
So they could go back and do this. And what they actually did was a racial gerrymander. But what the court said was that you can't infer a racial gerrymander. You have to actually to prove it in court. I mean, so you could.
What does that look like, though?
You can have like facts. They said it's no longer about that it's implied. So you could normally go, it's implicit. It's an implicit bias. So the way you construct the district, it's implicitly a racial gerrymander. Court said, no, this implicit thing does not count anymore. You actually have to show that it was intended for there to be a racial gerrymander. But because political gerrymandering is okay, you could say that the reason you're dividing up a city like Memphis is because of political concerns. It doesn't matter if the political concern then disenfranchises a majority black city. This is essentially what's happening in Louisiana. They're attempting to stop an entire election midstream in order to go back. And there's a lawsuit about that already. And then I believe it's Alabama, Kay Ivey, after saying she wasn't going to call a special session, is now calling a special session.
Listen,
and I believe Kentucky's doing the same thing.
Kentucky's doing the same thing.
Actually,
I
no,
mean,
but I'm not worried about Kentucky as a Republican
Democratic governor. Well, I mean, in effect, what you're saying, what I infer, from this ruling is we will have less black representatives at all levels of government, because these districts, especially in red states, right, that do have a high number of black folks, like you mentioned Tennessee, like you mentioned Kentucky, like you mentioned Louisiana, are no longer going to have the representation that they do. We're already worse off than we were with black representation since Reconstruction. And so here we are making it even worse. And I have to give a shout out to my girl, Senator London Lamar, who was standing up in Tennessee fighting against this and fighting alongside of community, right? To say that this is not okay, but seems like their fight feels real futile right now. I was also on a call this past weekend with black women leaders from across the country. Thousands of women came on the phone to talk about what they could do and how we can organize to fight back against this, the attack on the Voting Rights Act and the lack of representation that we know will come. But is there a path here to fight back, and what does that path look like?
There is a path to fight back. And the most obvious one is that folks actually have to show up and vote. You look at the states in question, and Mississippi's also on that list. You look at the states in question, they have significant black populations. And if these legislatures do what they intend to do, the congressional delegations will be out of proportion to the
Citizenry.
Thank you. The congressional delegations will not match the population demographics.
Yeah.
I want to say citizenry.
Oh, you got it.
I got it. It'll be not proportionate to its citizens. And for me, that calls into question one person, one vote. But I suspect the Supreme Court would disagree with me. But black folks have seen this before. We've been through this throughout our history, and we understand that we're going to show up and vote. And I think we have an obligation to churches, our community groups, to really get out and organize GOTV efforts this year. For instance, in Georgia, there are 2.5 million black folks who are eligible to vote, and the last time only about 1 million of them showed up to vote. I mean, that swings elections if you get that many people out to vote. And it's not enough to say, I'm tired of this administration. You have to do something about it. You have to vote. And
do you think that it's an opportunity then to actually turn out so many folks that we end up doing the opposite of what they're trying to do, and have more Democratic and more black representation in some of these places because folks are going to be more compelled to vote?
Yeah, it's certainly an opportunity to do that. Chuck Todd actually said that on his what he calls his Toddcast this week. Chuck Todd, the NBC news guy, said he thinks it's going to backfire. When you have an administration this profoundly unpopular, I don't think you can gerrymander your way out of a voting populace that's that upset.
That was exactly my point in a Threads post that I put up this week, and that basically the blue wave that I think is coming this November, and the butt kicking that's coming for Republicans, I think across the board, it's very difficult to gerrymander against that. I mean, we didn't end up in this place with this Supreme Court decision last week overnight. I think it's fair to say that the court has been chipping away at the Voting Rights Act for a number of years. So for the folks that have championed this effort, this obviously is a big victory for them. Where do you see those folks going next? And what do you think is sort of the next domino to fall? And where, what's their ultimate strategy here?
I hate to say this, but history is probably my guide on this one. And I want to take us back to 1866 or so, the start of the Reconstruction era. We had more black folks out of the Deep South elected to office than at any other time in history. 1876, and most folks don't talk about this enough, the Hayes-Tilden Compromise of 1876, which ended Reconstruction and also caused the end of the Civil Rights Act of 1866. What we saw there was a rollback after that, a rollback of the franchise, who was able to vote, who was entitled to vote. And there are already folks, if you go into the dark spaces of social media, but these people have voices now, who are looking at ways to eliminate the franchise for groups of people. Folks like Doug Wilson, who is the pastor of Pete Hegseth, Joel Webbin, who are out there saying really only the head of household should vote.
Yeah.
And these folks
if you change it for you're a woman and you've changed your name, there's been issues.
Right. If you look at the SAVE Act and the SAFE Act, both of which are dead now, if they had passed, women would have been disenfranchised effectively if you were married, because in order to register to vote, it said that in certain elections you would have to actually show that you're registered under your birth name, under the name that's on your birth certificate, which disproportionately impacts women. But they only went ahead of household to vote. There's some in this group who would also argue that only property owners should vote.
That's taken us way back, isn't it?
That's taken us way back. But these are the folks right now who have the ears of government. And then Jenna Ellis, Colorado's own Jenna Ellis, who used to work for Trump, on her podcast, it feels like everybody has a podcast nowadays, but on her podcast, she said that Christians should be more authoritarian in the public space. And so basically what she's saying is that really only a certain type of Christian, evangelical, and by evangelical, they really mean political evangelical, because I don't want to get into a whole theological discussion about what evangelical really means, but only a certain type of Christian should be allowed to vote.
So we only have a few minutes left on the show, and I just want to say thank you so much for coming on. But before we go, I do want to allow you some time to plug that podcast of yours. You mentioned everyone has one, and so do you. So, Mr. Morehouse, man, tell us about your podcast.
My nephew graduates from Morehouse next week, actually.
Congratulations.
He'll be the fourth Morehouse man in the family. My podcast is called Faithful Witness with Terrance Carroll. It's on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple, and every week we take the moral questions impacting our democracy, society, and culture, and we explore them. And it's based on, and it's grounded in it's grounded in me being a Black Baptist preacher in the prophetic tradition of the Black church. And so we look at these questions of democracy, culture, and society from the lens of the Black church, and as someone who's deeply grounded and rooted in the Black church.
And I just wanted to say, as a longtime admirer of yours, Terrance, I think it's wonderful to see someone model civility, the way you bring your faith into the work that you do in the public square. And you don't do that in a sort of holier than thou framework, which is sometimes what we see today with folks that are quote unquote religious or are projecting their religious views into politics, but you do it in a very authentic way. So it's just been a privilege to watch you as an unaffiliated. Come on over, the water's fine. But you and I have had a chance to work on a number of democracy reform issues, ranked choice voting, and various things, and hope to continue to have those opportunities, because I think you're just a real superstar in our state, and privileged to have you join us today.
And thank you. And you're both two of my favorite people, and you're in a podcast together. And so I'm going to keep watching.
Thank you.
I look forward to seeing Cole in more spaces like gay golf, or I thought it was a drag queen show at first.
It was a drag show, and we got to tell you, that riding that bike,
tandem
bike was nearly impossible.
We almost crashed.
We almost crashed. It was a good time, but hopefully you'll come back and we can get more into that too.
Thank you. And I'll have you all on my podcast at some point.
Yeah, we'd love that.
Sounds good. Thanks,
Terrance.
Thank you.
Welcome back. Each week we're going to be talking to people on the streets and reacting to a question, one simple question: what's bugging you? So let's see what we got.
Excuse me, do you live in Colorado?
Yeah? Why?
I'm with Politics is Personal. It's a podcast, and I was wondering if I could ask you a question.
Okay, sure.
My question is, what's bugging you?
Oh, a lot. I would say what's bugging me right now is the Spirit Airlines shutdown. The travel industry right now has just been all over the place. Fuel prices skyrocketing. It's crazy, and that's what's bugging me. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Is there anything you want to say to your people at home?
Hi, Mom.
Aw, so cute. I love it. Listen, okay, let's talk about a gas price. Okay, I love travel, right? I'm a traveler. My friends laugh and ask me, are you in town? Where are you? What country are you in?
What do you love most about travel?
I just love the feeling of being up in the sky. Honestly, I love our airport too, but that's another story.
I love arriving. I don't necessarily love the travel part. You like sitting on a plane and sitting in airports? You like that?
I like it because it gives me time to just think. Now, since we've had more internet on the plane, it's a little bit different because I'm doing more stuff. But it really
never
allows
works
me
for
to
me.
Are you flying Spirit?
No. I don't think anyone's flying Spirit right now.
Well, did you fly it or did you like have to Flintstone it up into the sky? I quite frankly, Spirit Airlines closing is really funny, and I don't know if this is a recession indicator because I feel like Spirit Airlines was never quite the indicator of any type of wealth, but we did need the options in order to travel, and I think having a major carrier no longer in the game, regardless of the Spirit jokes, it is going to push prices up. I will say that it is, to me, like insane that when I put $40 into my gas tank for my four-door sedan car, that I'm not even filling up my tank anywhere near it. Gas prices are not only affecting individual families and people, but it's also affecting tourism and the ability to travel throughout the state and to go to places like Peonia. So I gotta agree with her. It's bugging me too.
I mean, nothing about travel is fun to me, except I love the destination, love doing all of those things. But let's face it, I'm about to get on a plane here in a couple of hours. I'm flying for a client, so I don't have to pay for the ticket. But it is very expensive to travel, and we're going to see more of that going on this year as jet fuel prices skyrocket with everything that's happening in the Middle East. Travel is an important part of the way that we connect as human beings. It's relevant to the way we do business. So not traveling is not an option. But the cost of travel and the hassles associated with it and less carriers, it kind of makes me wonder, which carrier is next.
Yeah.
Because I know the margins are very, very thin for a lot of carriers.
I feel like this consolidation is happening in so many different industries and arenas, and it really is having an impact on consumers. And I am worried about how much costs are going up. But Cole, I think I get this question sometimes. It's like, okay, say we're in a utopia world and Trump is no longer our president. Will the gas prices and fuel prices go down quickly?
Not.
Is there any hope?
I mean, what I'm sort of gathering from the sources that I look at, we're looking at higher prices through the end of 2026, probably extending into 2027. I think yesterday in the Strait of Hormuz, 2 ships got through, 2. And before that, you had hundreds of ships coming through the strait on a daily basis. So we're going to continue to feel the impacts of that in a variety of ways. For those folks who want to get in their cars and travel around the country by car this summer, and that's going to be very, very difficult. So this is going to start to pinch folks. It's staggering to me why we went into war without sort of thinking this through. And unfortunately, our president doesn't know what the exit strategy is, and so I think we're in for a world of hurt for a while on fuel.
Yeah, and doesn't have an exit strategy. Let's just be real about that.
Yeah.
And anyone from the administration, as they go on all these talk shows and make all these comments, they have nothing to say, but they just get real defensive about the fact that they are not, quote unquote, winning. There's nothing happening, and there's no end game. There's no progress there, and it really does translate onto the streets. Like people are feeling it, and the best thing that we can hope for right now is stabilization. We just hope that the prices don't keep going up and up and up and up. But I don't think we're going to see it go back down. So I'm not trying to date myself here, but gone are the days of 99-cent gas. We're never going to see those again.
Yeah.
But I would like to see us go sub 3 or sub 4 if that's possible.
I really like driving my Bronco, so I really want to have prices come down. So, but can we really talk about one of the biggest pet peeves in travel?
Yeah.
The person in front of you that reclines their seat.
I recline. I'm a recliner.
You're one of those people.
I'm a recliner. There's a button, and I push it.
Okay, but what about you're actually invading the space of the person behind you?
No, they can recline too.
I never recline.
Okay, you're
I don't.
5 foot nothing. I'm a bit taller.
Don't you think that's a matter of courtesy to not recline your seat?
I think it's a privilege for short people to be able to make that determination.
Okay.
But no, I do recline. The recline is this much anyways, but I do feel like that
matters
gives
to me
a little bit when I'm snuggling up and trying to sleep. And so yes, I do recline. In my defense, I'm usually in economy plus at least, and so they have a little bit of room behind me.
Okay, window or aisle?
I'm a window.
Oh, I'm definitely aisle.
See?
Yeah. I don't want to have to climb over people.
Yeah.
I get claustrophobic when I'm in there.
Yeah, I just want to put on my headphones, get in my corner, lay on the window, and go to sleep. Like, that's what I want to do. And so I am definitely a window.
Does the middle person have rights to the armrest?
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely. They have
That's
both.
I've seen
They
a
have
really
both.
spirited debate about.
They have both. They are in the middle. They get both.
Are they supposed to have their elbows in the front or in the back? I
They
never
can do
quite
whatever they
know
want.
where I'm.
The ones on the side then follow once they get comfortable. The middle person gets those.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what I think.
All I can say is God bless the middle people, because that's definitely not fun.
All right. So what's bugging you this week?
I think the fact that we're still not talking about water policy, and fortunately we just got some snow in Denver, but I don't hear a whole lot of discussion happening about water policy. Maybe it's happening. Maybe it's happening in state capitals or amongst governors' offices, but I'm very nervous about where the West is going to be this summer with wildfire season. And it's one of the core issues that I think we are just not tackling.
Yeah, and with the drought that we're facing, we already have watering restrictions across counties, across the metro area. I do think that water is going to be a huge issue with the fires as well, because with no water, we need that also to put out the fires that we know will come. But we have quite the debate with neighboring states around who owns water coming from the Colorado River and off the mountains, right? And so I do think it's a conversation that we should be having that we're not having enough of.
And I think as you and I are going to be having conversations about the important Colorado governor's race, I'm looking to the candidate who's going to talk to me about water in a responsible way. I want the Attorney General of our state to be taking a really a very critical leadership role on water. So I'm hoping candidates talk about that. I hope we can talk about that some more, because I think it's a really important issue. Hey, maybe we should have a water expert come in and teach us something.
Yeah.
But that's one issue that we're just not hitting at all.
Interesting, and I never hear that come up as a top reason, or question for these races, and so I'm actually curious where folks are on that as well.
Other than the Met Gala, what's bugging you this week?
Well, I don't want to say it's bugging me, but I do find it interesting that our governor's race is heating up. It's getting a little spicy.
Are you surprised it's heating up?
I am not surprised.
Yeah.
Quite frankly, I'm glad that they're taking the gloves off a little bit, because I don't think they were.
It's been boring.
It's been kind of boring.
Yeah.
And I think that they can and should.
And they will.
And they will.
Yeah. It's going to be a really fun race to watch. Two good candidates, but I think, obviously we're on opposite sides of that race. But as we get closer to primary day, it could get a little spicy.
Who took the gloves off first?
I think Michael Bennet took the gloves off.
I think Phil Weiser did.
No. I mean, based on the clip of the debate that I saw, clearly Michael Bennet was making sort of snide comments about, hey, you say you're suing the Trump administration. In fact, you've only filed a few of these lawsuits yourself. So I think it was a shot across the bow from Michael Bennet first. And, kudos to Phil for engaging.
Yeah, I mean, this is going to be really interesting to see these folks who really have kind of run on gentlemanly politics, if you will, and I don't mean that in a pejorative way. I mean, but they have been kind of that kind of political character, and now they're kind of coming at each other, and I think it will be really interesting. The other part of it is they've got millions of dollars to amplify the attacks. You've seen that.
Well, they have a lot of money. There's a lot of money that's going to be spent. We haven't talked about the Republican side of the race. Victor Marks, I think, is really starting to look like he's going to be the candidate on the Republican side. If it's a Victor Marks campaign against Michael Bennet or Phil Weiser, what do you think that looks like? He's a pastor, so,
I think Phil Weiser wins. I mean, I think it becomes really ugly, and I think our general election, no matter really what election you are or what state, it's going to be tough. It's going to be ugly, but of course, I think the Democrat will win in Colorado. So.
I'm not gonna bet you on that one. Yeah.
Well, that's all the time we have for today. Thank you so much, Cole. And I just want to give a special shout out and thank you to our listeners, our subscribers. We have one show under our belt, our pilot, and now this is our second. And I could not thank you enough for engaging, for liking, for sharing, for subscribing. This will not continue without listeners like you, so we really appreciate it.
Yeah, I agree, Leslie. Thanks for your time today, and it's always fun being with you. And remember, friends, politics is personal, so keep talking.
Thank you so much for listening. This episode of Politics is Personal, hosted by Leslie Herod and Cole Wist. The episode featured Terrance D. Carroll and was directed by Julie Jackson, edited by Jamison Johnson, and produced by Leslie Herod, Cole Wist, Ian Silveri, and Julie Jackson. Special thanks to Culture for hosting Sugar Shack, painted by Ernie Barnes. Music by JKK. And follow us on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, YouTube, and any site where you get your podcast at Politics is Personal with Leslie and Cole. Recorded at Denver Community Media. All rights reserved.